الوفي الأمين الأغر، فأهل الوفاء كلون السحاب وحسن الربيع وماء المطر.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. All praise due to Allah, the Lord, cherisher, nourisher, sustainer, and master of the universe, the most gracious, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ya Allah, it is only you that we worship and it is your guidance that we seek. Ya Allah, keep us in the straight path. Ya Allah, show us the choice of blessings. Ya Allah, show us the mercy. Ya Allah, guide us. Greetings, salam, salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. 9 minutes past 9 on this beautiful Friday evening. Yes, it is the end of the week and it is the 14th of February 2025, the 16th of Shaban 1446. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Let's Chat on Radio Al Ansar with myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. Yes, our technician this evening is Brother Asif Piri, and of course, our guest this evening are Dr. Mark Mutli and Nadia Bayat. Our topic for discussion is making memories, fighting mental stress, family dynamics, and disability. Yes, lots of words and sort of tongue twister. But tonight we're going to explore the power of making memories, the battle against mental stress, the complexities of family dynamics, and the realities of living with a disability. Life moves fast, and in the chaos, we sometimes forget the importance of cherishing moments, prioritizing our mental well being, and understanding the unique challenges faced by families and individuals with disabilities. Dr. Mark Woodley, good evening to you. Thank you for joining me in the program this evening.
Wa alaikum salam. It's good to be on studio. Faizal, I think are we making memories or are we battling mental stress with disabilities in children?
We're doing both. We're doing both. We're doing both. We're doing both. And Nadia, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. And it's always good to be here. It's like you got a double dose of me 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've certainly given me a double dose with your PhD, can I say it, with that series that you've given to me. Mark, are we going to manage this?
I told Nadia it's like a postgrad examination paper, but
Exactly.
we'll pull through it. Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
We will.
Well, you know, I know our guests need no introduction, but we've got that one listener who doesn't know you. So for his benefit, I'm going to take from now till the next ad break, introducing the two of you. Okay. Dr. Mark Mudley is a specialist pediatrician practicing in the Durban area and specifically practicing in Amshlanga. He obtained his MB CHB degree in 2012 with UKZN and thereafter completed 24 months of internship training at the RK Khan Hospital. He completed 12 months of community service at the Dr. Harry Surti Hospital in Pediatrics. Dr. Mudley has advocated for hundreds of children during his work in rural areas. He thereafter worked as a medical officer in the Department of Pediatrics in Uppington, Northern Cape. He completed his diploma in child health during his community service time with the College of Medicine, South Africa. He began his resident. I lost you, Mark. I really lost you there. Okay, he began his resident training in pediatrics in the Free State in 2018. During this time, he completed his master's in pediatrics, which is currently being considered for publication. Has it been published already?
It's a long process.
Oh, it's a long process. Okay. So his topic looked at infections and outcomes in neonates. He was advised to submit his findings to the Free State Department of Health, as his study showed significant findings. He achieved his pediatric fellowship in 2021. His interests include neonatology, infectious diseases, asthma, allergy, and behavioral disorders in children. He's now practicing in the private sector in the Amshlanga area. I'm just going to take a breath now. Okay. He treats all pediatric conditions, including acute and chronic illnesses. He has featured on many radio talk shows in discussing Down syndrome, child protection, and you name it. Mark, thank you once again for joining me. Do you realize it's a Friday evening?
And it's Valentine's.
Well, I don't know about that. That we don't go there. But we don't go there. But it's a Friday evening. We want to cool down, and such tongue twisters you come with, really. But anyway, okay. Well, let's introduce Nadia. Nadia's passion for helping people thrive first led her to a bachelor's degree in psychology and double honors degree in speech and therapy and audiology. She trained as a neuro rehab specialist and also has a diploma in Montessori teaching. Her interest in advocacy work developed early on in her career and was refined by her work in the medico-legal field. Nadia's professional journey has spanned 3 continents: Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. She had the privilege of helping to shape the healthcare system at a Johns Hopkins facility in the Middle East and headed rehabilitation services and operations for a branch of the Abu Dhabi government. Nadia also has a master's in health and management and leadership from the UK. She has developed training programs for universities and medical schools and has co-authored 3 books. Yep, I was about to say, and is currently the director, but I'm not going to go there.
No,
I'm not going there.
it's
Anyway,
enough.
It's
It's
enough.
enough.
I think so.
It's
I think
enough.
so. Okay, I'm going to take a bit of a breather. But yes, let's get down to business. What are the most common mental health challenges experienced by parents of children with disabilities? Example, depression, anxiety, PTSD, burnout, etc. And I'm just opening the floor, and it can be ladies first, or Mark can go for it.
Well,
Well-
Mark, I think let's start with a little story, right?
Yeah.
You have a little one come into your room and you see parents, and what do you see?
Yeah, so I think the major thing here is when you diagnose a child with a disability, we often treat that child and we send that child off and do the necessary referrals. But what we fail to do is treat the parent, and that's what's missing. And what we've been observing with consultations is that parents are not being treated, and this is a huge issue because no parent wants to hear that their child has a disability, be it a physical disability, mental disability, blindness, hearing impairment. And if you don't treat that parent, it is going to jeopardize that child's management.
Mhm.
And, Mark, I so agree, because what we've got to remember is any diagnosis, when you want to have a child, you've got all these dreams and hopes, and you build this sort of image of what that future is going to look like. And then you come to your doctor and your doctor says, well, actually, there is a difficulty. And then you name it, right? And what I think we don't understand is that those parents actually have to mourn the loss of having what we call a normal or a neurotypical child.
Yeah.
And we don't give it enough attention. I mean, some parents stay in that grieving process. So their child is alive, but they are in grieving.
Mhm.
And they're grieving this loss of that child, which they wanted.
Mhm.
And if you don't help them and support them, then this child with the disability is actually going to suffer the consequences of you not addressing the parents' mental health issues.
Yeah, and Nadia, I think when you make the diagnosis, you need to be very strategic and do it stepwise, because if you just throw a diagnosis of disability to that parent, it is going to impact that parent's mental health. So if you go stepwise, do it strategically, and because we're trying to aim for acceptance of the diagnosis for management to be effective.
Yeah.
And I think, the parents' mental health is absolutely vital, because they're going to be the foundation for that child. They're going to nurture that child. And if they don't have the positive attitude, then that child's going to have problems. Because as it is, when the child is going to be entering, real life, I can say, that child's going to be faced with various challenges from others.
Yeah.
So the parents will have to develop that child.
Yeah. And sometimes, Faisal, it's not obvious things you see.
Mhm.
So the first thing I pick up is parents who, what I call shopping. So they've been to many professionals,
Yeah.
right? They've seen many doctors and they've seen many therapists because they're looking for what they want to hear.
Yes, correct.
Almost, right? But the longer you take to do that, It means the longer you've delayed intervention. And we've got a very short window of intervention, meaning early intervention.
Absolutely.
And we know that early intervention, if initiated immediately, has maximum benefit. The longer you take, the more difficulties will come up.
Absolutely. I think the problem is that we are always in denial, irrespective of the circumstances, be it against ourselves, in respect of our children, spouse, etc. We don't want to accept the situation, and that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah.
Mark, you were...
Yeah, I want to say that that's where communication is very important, because when you make the diagnosis, if you take time, I know sometimes we have busy practices and we make a diagnosis, we don't have the time to explain to parents. But if you maybe book a second session and actually spend that session discussing to the parent more on the diagnosis, giving them the opportunity to ask questions, because a lot of parents don't get the opportunity to ask questions. A lot of them are in denial. If you take the time to discuss a diagnosis, give them the opportunity to ask questions, explain what the outcomes will be, what will be the complications, long-term, short-term, it might reduce that risk of, as Nadia said, shopping around, because parents, they don't know much about the diagnosis, and then we're going to go back to Dr. Google, and they Googling a lot of stuff, and they think it's this, they think it's that, the diagnosis changes, and the shopping starts.
But now we get second opinion as well.
Second
You're
opinion.
a specialist in AI.
Oh, yes.
Of course,
yes,
so you get
yes.
you get your second
Definitely.
opinion from there, of course.
Or sometimes what you see, Faisal, is that, you know, mothers and fathers sort of deal with a diagnosis in very different ways.
Yes.
Right? So your mom will be maybe the one who's like, okay, right, how do I do this? You know, because
She's generally more positive.
well, yes.
Positive in the sense that she wants to handle the situation, deal with it, and try and get a favorable outcome.
Yes. And dad seemed to take a little bit longer. And it's the whole thing of, okay, why me? Did this come from me? So it's this whole thing of questioning, did I do something? Was it something I did? Or whatever that is.
The
so
normal
it's
guilt trip.
yes.
Guilt trip.
And that takes longer as well. And what I want to say that's so important is that if there are cracks in a relationship between your parents before a diagnosis, when you get that diagnosis, it literally causes crevices.
Absolutely.
So it's so important that you are on the same page, that you provide the stability and security, and that parents move together, right? However, you sit down and you say, this is what we want for our child. This is where we're going. And we've also got to be kinder to fathers. Dads express grief in a very different way. They throw themselves, I mean, think about it. You get a group of women together and we talk. We let it all out.
I know. Tell me about it.
You know, and that's a good thing. But you put a group of men together and they'll watch soccer.
Yep.
And it'll be a little bit of monosyllabic. Oh, yes. Did you, you know, that is it. That is how men bond. But that doesn't mean they are insensitive. They're not feeling, right? So when and then mothers turn around and say, well, you know, he just doesn't care. You know, I've got to do all the hard work, because a lot of times fathers throw themselves into work, right? Because that's their way of dealing with things. Let me try and do something I am good at.
Exactly.
You see this in the consulting rooms when they come in. The dad is sitting at one place and the mom is sitting there and the child is there. You could see that, you know, the family dynamics, there's something that's not right there. But nowadays, some of the dads do accept the diagnosis, and it's the other way with the moms. But I do agree, it's more the moms that's accepting. And the problem always comes with when you give them a treatment plan, that's when they stop. And I think that has to do a lot with not accepting the diagnosis. Because if you accept the treatment, I feel like you have accepted my child has this problem.
06090411056. Yes, this is an interactive program. We are discussing fighting mental stress, family dynamics, even disability, etc. And of course, our guests are Dr. Mark Mudley, a pediatrician, and Nadia Bayat, a neuro rehab specialist. I got that right, huh?
Well
Yes, a neuro
done.
rehab specialist. And yes, you can forward to us your questions, your contribution to the topic, your suggestion, etc. 06090411056. Yes, that's via WhatsApp. Now, how does the prevalence of mental health disorders differ between parents of children with disabilities and parents of typically developing children?
So if you look at parents with children that do have disabilities, all of the disabilities, we do find that they do have a higher prevalence of mental health disorders, and I tend to see a lot of this in the neurodevelopmental disorders like autism spectrum disorder. No parent wants to hear that their child is autistic. Once you give out the diagnosis, it's a shock to the parents. I think some of the parents kind of know about the diagnosis. They read up about it and they anticipated the diagnosis was coming. But when you give out the diagnosis, the dynamic starts to change. And the first reaction will be denial and what did I do wrong as a parent for my child to be autistic? Did I miss something? Did I do something wrong? And they blame it on themselves. And often they are told that it's because of parental behavior the child is presenting like that. But there is, the cause for autism is not exactly known, but it's not because of parental behavior. Yeah. If there's a message we can give out to listeners whose children are on the autism spectrum disorder, it's not because of your behavior that your child has autism.
I think the defining thing here in terms of how it differs is that all parents will experience some sort of stress and anxiety around their children. Children get sick, right? They fall, they hurt themselves, right? As a parent, your heart will always live outside your body when you have children, right? It's absolutely wrapped up in who they are. And that's part of being a parent, right? But the thing with parents with sort of, if you look at autism, is that autism is a lifelong condition, right? It's there from the time they are little, and it's there forever.
Okay.
So it's not something that's going away.
But it can be managed.
It can be managed.
That's very important.
And that is it. We're saying that do not lose hope. Do not despair. But what we do as professionals is we hone in on the child with the difficulties. And it's almost like the parents need to take care of themselves. And what we need to do is turn that on its head, literally, and say, this is the foundation of the child's well-being, these parents. It's taking almost a triangle and putting that base of the triangle first, which is your parents, these two individuals, and there's your child, right? Because without them, your child is not going to get what it needs.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
We can be brilliant health professionals, but unless your parents are there and providing all the support and foundation, can we get anywhere?
No, not at all.
So it comes back to parents playing a pivotal role in one's life.
Huge.
But it's difficult on the parent. It's human to want to deny this because you want to have a child that's neurotypical, right? And if you give a diagnosis of autism and we know it's a lifelong condition, I think it's human and it's normal to react in that way. But that's where communication is very important, physician to parents and the health team as well. I think that's lacking a lot in the diagnosis of these disabilities. If you could, give more input to parents and be more supportive, because we are the pioneers in this diagnosis. it could make it easier for the parents, because then when we're not going home with them, we give them the diagnosis, we're not going home with them, we don't know what happens when they go take that child home. Set up a follow-up, check up with them, check on them, and offer the necessary resources, because it is a quite difficult diagnosis.
06090411056. We are discussing fighting mental stress and family dynamics as well as disability. And you're welcome to call us, or sorry, to send us a WhatsApp on 06090411056. These can be questions, suggestions, contribution to the topic. We want to hear from you. Now, are there specific disabilities, example autism, cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, etc., that are associated with a higher risk of mental health challenges in parents? And if so, why might this be the case?
Yeah, a lot of these disabilities, autism, cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, they're all going to have an impact on the parents' mental health. Initially, like Nadia said, it's like a grieving process or bereavement process, and that is a process that starts with the denial, not accepting the diagnosis. And for parents, it's going to be different. Some of them will go through that phase quicker. Some of them will go to that phase longer. Some of them will never accept it, and some of them will accept it. And these parents are at a high risk of depression, anxiety, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, if you might call it, suicidal ideation. And these are a lot of issues that are not brought up, because we focus so much on the child and on the patient. We don't actually ask the parents, how are you feeling about this? And when they come into your consulting room, you can see the mom is you can see her mood is low, you can see she's tired, you can see she's irritable, and the dad as well. And you see there's a missing sort of relationship between the mom and dad. They in different places. So if you don't ask them, some of them, I think, they're ashamed to tell you, doctor, I am depressed because of this condition. But I do get parents that come in and they will sit down, they will bring their child with autism spectrum disorder. And I'm like, hi, mom. And like the first thing they tell me is, I'm not even a hi, doctor, I am battling, I'm struggling. And I'm like, talk to me, what's wrong?
Yeah. I also think, Mark, it's parents, this whole thing of, these stages of grief. We think, okay, when you're done with the denial, it doesn't come back. And when you're done with all of the stages, but it's not. It's like almost like you can go through sort of waves of it, right? And what I think is so important, when you have sort of a physical disability, you know what that is. You know what the treatment is, right? And it's not a sort of a progressive thing. Now, autism, we know, changes, right? And let those teenage years hit and hormones come into play. And parents will say to me, Nadia, I knew who my little one was. I had accepted that. But this one, who's now a teenager, it's like I'm going through the whole process again because I do not know this child. So
it is absolutely difficult, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Now, how do pre-existing mental health conditions in parents interact with the stress of raising a child with a disability?
Yeah, that's a tough one. If they do have pre-existing mental health conditions, it is going to be very tough on that parent. A lot of them, and the thing is with autism and ADHD and your other neurodevelopmental disabilities, you often find there's a family history of mental health. Like your ADHD, a lot of the kiddies that are diagnosed with ADHD, they often have one of the parents that's ADHD. I mean, I see it in the consulting rooms. They bring the child in, but the mom and dad are sitting there all fidgety, or the consult is booked for 12 o'clock. They're showing up at 20 past 12, coming late for the consult, because time management is a problem in ADHD. And I asked them, have you been diagnosed with ADHD? Because there is a genetic predisposition. And they told me, no, I thought about it. And when I was in school, I used to fail grades. And I'm like, it's probably there. You need to seek help because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's
But
going
then
to be
I've
tough.
outgrown it, Mark. Do you hear that?
I've outgrown it, but they're
Yeah.
sitting there all fidgety and
Yes.
restless.
Yes. I've outgrown it. Yeah.
In
So
fact,
I just think it's that whole anything that's stressful. And if you've got a pre-existing, it's almost like being a little bit more vulnerable,
mhm.
a little bit more fragile.
So-
Think about it, Faisal, when you're having a bad day and somebody says something to you, you react in a totally different way
Mhm.
than you would normally,
Would normally, absolutely.
right? It's the same here,
Mhm.
right?
Do these new conditions, or what's been now told to the parents, trigger off the existing conditions? Is it a trigger?
It is because now you stressing, you've got high anxiety, you've got high stress,
Yeah.
right? But now it's ramped it up to a different level.
Mhm.
So now you constantly in the circular thinking of what if, what happens, where is this going, how am I going to manage? And we've got to think about, if you think parents of what we call neurotypical children are sleep deprived,
Mhm.
think about parents of children on the autistic spectrum. So they have ASD and they have attention deficit, and they sleep very little. They're not regular. It's a battle to go to sleep. So you are constantly in a state of absolute exhaustion.
Yeah. A lot of these parents, they're not on treatment.
Yeah.
They're not on treatment, and that's going to make it worse. So I think if you go into it and see if they are on treatment, do the necessary referrals to psychology, psychiatry, to get them on treatment, and that could help. Yeah.
Okay, we have a WhatsApp message coming from a listener. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In my opinion, a very complex subject matter this evening. From my experience after diagnosis and first meeting with parents, from the outset, it's vital for practitioners to establish parents' expectations. Parents normally have done their research and advised regarding their child's probability of recovery. Then the process of outcomes becomes a reality. Thank you for reading my contribution. Thank you, Ayub Rahman, Peter Maritzburg.
Yeah, when they do come in for the consult, it's important to ask initially in the consult, what are your expectations from this consultation? And you'll be surprised. A lot of them come in with notebooks as well, and you have questions. I had a mom that came in and she had like 30 questions in the notebook. She didn't tell me, and I asked her like, "What's in that book?" And she's like, "Oh, I had a lot of questions for you." So if you don't ask them, some of them are scared to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do ask them, they will give you their expectations, and yeah, and that could help.
I must just thank Brother Ayub Rahman for that message. Made a lot of sense, and thank you for having kicked off the WhatsApp messages. 060-904-1056. Now, what is the impact of the child's age on the parent's mental health? Are there challenges? Are the challenges different for parents of young age versus adolescents, adults with disabilities? Nadia, you looking very interested and eager to answer this question. I'm going to leave this to you.
Well, Faisal, it's nice that I get to see sort of students across a lifespan. So I see little ones and I see them when they're slightly older, and I'm seeing the young adults into adulthood. And definitely what I see change is that your young ones are cute, all right? They're little. You can pick them up and you can sort something out. But as they grow, they're also bigger, right? And so when you have what we call, everybody thinks is a tantrum, but we know that comes from what we call sensory dysregulation. So it's a meltdown because I cannot cope anymore on a sensory level. With a young adult or an adult, that can become highly aggressive, and parents get hurt by their children.
Yes.
Not that their children mean to hurt them, right? So if you're thinking about it, it does change. And think about 24/7. You know, 15 years or 20 years of doing this every single day. You worn out.
Definitely.
And there's no respite, because if we look at it, most of our families are no longer extended families. Who helps you?
Exactly.
Yeah, and with your young children, obviously, you want to take them out to family members. You want to take them out to the shopping center and all of that. But the problem is the stigma attached. You keep that child at home, and that child should be exposed, to the outside stimuli. With the older kids, this is where they tend to have a lot of substance abuse,
Yes.
suicidal ideation, bullying. And that could have a huge impact on the parents, because they're getting complaints from the school. I had parents call me crying that X, Y, and Z hit this child at school. Doctor, please help me, in the middle of the night. So with the teenagers, that's why it's important. If you don't start treatment early, you're likely to have those problems when that child becomes an adolescent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the bullying is so bad, Faisal, that they are blackmailing children. So parents think, that we go through this, is my child a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3? Because they look at it in terms of severity. And our level 1 children are those that can be mainstreamed, they do well academically, and they really are bright children. But when you are that level 1, right, you understand the level of your difficulties.
Absolutely.
So the mental health issues are magnified. These are the children who are bullied to such an extent where these children blackmail them into stealing money from their parents.
Okay. Becomes very serious.
Very serious. And schools seem to take this very lightly.
Because I don't know if they understand the severity of this, but more important, do they have the resources to deal with this? Now, while you're considering that and mulling over it, I need to take an ad break, so we'll visit the marketplace. We'll continue on the other side of this. Sure.
Radio Al-Ansar.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031-306-4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Plan your dream holiday with the specialist, World of Travel. As we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah, we also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 888 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Looking for a perfect gift? Then look no further. This Ramadan, the Al-Ansar shop has a wide range of international brands of perfumes, books, games, and much, much more, all at affordable prices. Visit us at 207 West Road, Overport, or call us on 031-208-1601. Al-Ansar Shop, your one-stop Islamic shop.
Station for Conversation, Radio Al-Ansar.
Mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine. Mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine. Mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine. Was the greatest man that ever lived, yeah. Mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine. Mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine. Mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine, I'll be mine. Was the greatest man that ever lived, yeah. He's the one who taught me life. He taught me everything that I know. I thank Allah for mine to be. Everything that I do is from the book of Sunnah that I follow each and every day. See my bed, cause my prophet said so. I pray my sunnahs, cause my prophet said so. Love the ummah, cause my prophet said so. Said so, said so. Thank you Allah for our prophet.
Let's chat on Radio Ansar with myself, Faizal, MJ, Suleman. Yes, it's an absolutely beautiful Friday evening, and our topic for discussion is fighting mental stress, family dynamics, and disability. And our guests this evening, Dr. Mark Mudley, a pediatrician, and Nadia Bayat, a neuro rehab specialist. And of course, Nadia, just prior to the ad break, we were discussing. What you were talking about was the the impact of the child's age on parents' mental health. Take it from there.
Mark, do you have anything to add to what I was saying? As children grow and their difficulties evolve, so too does the parental stress become magnified.
Yeah. No, I just think with the adolescents and teenagers, the risk of the substance abuse and bullying and suicidal ideation is quite high, and that's going to impact the parents' mental health. A lot of parents tell me that they are scared that the child might be suicidal. So it's always important when you get an adolescent in your room to maybe ask the parents to go outside and then speak to that adolescent one-on-one. That's important. You'll be surprised as to what you hear from them. They won't tell their parents, but if you build that rapport and relationship with them, they will speak to you and they'll open up about certain things. Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Now, how does the severity of a child's disability correlate with the level of psychological distress experienced by the parents?
I think it's different with parents. You could get an autism level 3 and those parents could have done their homework and they're okay with it. You could make a diagnosis of ADHD that's very mild and those parents could be like, what's going on? Not accepting. So it varies. Everyone's different with mental health. Nadia?
I agree. It's your parent who, I see it all the time. Those who may be professionals in sort of high-powered jobs, and they kind of expecting their children to sort of go like they go, So I want him to do that. I want that, and I want that. And it's almost like you've got to say, okay, that's your vision. But what is your child's vision? Right? And can we find a happy medium in between what you think and where your child is? So the big thing is, as children grow, it's almost like we don't impose. We've got to now start that conversation with them to say, well, how do you feel and what do you want?
Absolutely. Okay, now what are the primary sources of stress for parents of children with disabilities?
Many.
I can take a walk and come back if you want.
Many. Yeah. I mean, Faizal, the big thing is we sit in a total imbalanced society. Even your parents who are so-called sort of well-to-do economically, when you have a child with a disability, the financial strain is huge.
Undoubtedly.
It's massive, right? And unfortunately, you cannot go to the public sector. So I've had parents, you wait between 9 months to 18 months to see a pediatric neurologist in the public sector. Can you imagine waiting that long to just get a diagnosis?
Yeah, and I've heard in overseas it's actually quite longer as well.
Really?
In some countries to get a diagnosis, there's a long waiting list. But I think if you can't make a diagnosis, it wouldn't harm to refer the child to speech and occupational therapy if you're suspecting maybe an autism spectrum disorder and you haven't made the diagnosis. If you refer the child to speech and OT, there's no harm in that. And if it indeed is an ASD, which is autism, you have started the relevant treatment.
Yeah. So the financial strain, because everything you do has a financial factor to it. Therapies, I mean, and you can't do therapy once a month. You might as well not do therapy if that's it. So when you say early intervention and intensive, right? And something that I look at is we can have intensive blocks of treatment. So where you work intensively and you say to a parent, okay, now you go away and you can implement. So your parent is not only stressed about being a parent, but also your parent becomes a therapist. Your parent becomes the teacher. The parent becomes the medical person who has to now dispense medication, make sure you're taking medication. So there are all these things. So sometimes children feel like their parents don't love them because you're so busy being all these other things that sort of gets left behind.
Yeah. Sometimes the cost of treatment equates to the parent salary combined, or even more than that. So where do you have finances for the basic necessities of like food, shelter, clothing, education? Because the cost of it could be higher than what the parents are earning.
And I recommend to all parents that you apply for a SASA grant, but your SASA grant is minimal. Is so minimal that if you're looking at medications, that's sort of sometimes the range or the type of medication children are on are sometimes triple that, right? But it's a little bit, it's almost like a stipend that you can get that can help you with this financial strain. The other thing is, who helps you, Faizal? Who gives you the break as a parent? Where do you go to say, I just need to sleep? Who can I hand my child to who will take the best care of them and I can take that break? So that's respite care. And we do not have that in this country.
You've got to fall back on the grandparents.
Well, yeah. But grandparents kind of do things like you have children who, too much sugar, the chocolates, the sweets, the everything. And then they're really swinging off the chandeliers, aren't they, Mark?
And your ADHDs.
Yes.
You can't win. You can't win. Definitely not. Now, it's quite traumatic awaiting a diagnosis. So how does waiting for a diagnosis, dealing with conflicting opinions from professionals, contribute to parents' stress and anxiety?
Yeah, like Nadia said, the waiting for diagnosis, especially in your public sector, could take a long time. And that's that period, that window period is for parents now to go onto the internet and start Dr. Google. So they will have a whole list. This might be autism spectrum disorder. This might be attention deficit disorder. It might be a PDA, it might be a conduct disorder. So they're going crazy with Dr. Google. And that's obviously going to increase the parental stress and anxiety. Conflicting opinions from professionals. I think professionals should speak to each other, and that's important. But I do agree the waiting period is going to cause a huge sort of impact on the parents' mental health. In private, it's quicker, but in the public sector, it is longer.
Yeah. But also, Faizal, this whole thing of conflicting opinions from professionals. I never compare children with who are neurodiverse to neurotypical. And what sort of therapists do is, not all therapists, some therapists, is they will take out what you should be doing, almost like a developmental checklist, and say you're not achieving this. Therefore, you're functioning. I mean, I had a dad of this delightful little one who's 3. say to me that the therapist said to him his child is functioning at a 6 month to a year level. Whoa.
And the child was 3 years old.
3 years old. And yes, this child has difficulties, and a lot of it is sensory difficulties. But how do you do that to a parent? How do you do that? You know, and when you say that to a parent, the parent thinks there's no hope. There's nothing I can do. So it's that whole thing of blame, and also I feel helpless.
Mr. Rahman has actually added to his contribution, Ayub Rahman. He says, in addition, may I ask, is there space in their intervention with parents and child time for love, compassion, and prayer? Or is this the totality, or is this totally a parental responsibility in this process of outcomes? Have your guests experienced the outcome of prayer during this practice, during their practice? Shukran.
Yeah, that's actually
that's a very
that's
good,
exceptional one. Yeah, I do think I think Nadia, we were discussing this, the impact of spirituality and prayer, bringing that into the situation during that waiting period, because I do believe personally that could help you, and I've even asked parents this, and they do tell me that they're in touch with their spirituality and it is helping them to cope while they're waiting. Yeah, whatever helps you as a parent, go for it. Yeah,
I think it's very important, Faizal. You know, it's almost like you've been pushed off a cliff, right? And you're free falling. So you've got to anchor yourself. And how do you anchor yourself in this free fall, right? You anchor yourself by reaching out to spiritually. You anchor yourself by emotional, right? Psychological. And then, okay, what is it? What are my next steps to follow? So it's almost like you need the safety net. So it's full circle approach from all aspects.
And how does what role does social support or lack thereof, I was supposed to say social media, but I got to just amend that. How does social support or lack thereof play in buffering against the negative mental health impacts of parenting a child with a disability?
Yeah, Nadia, this is one of your PhD questions.
So it's so funny. I met a mom the other day, and she, has a young adult who is autistic, non-verbal or non-speaking, as we say. And of course, gone through the whole sort of dad's now left the home. And she said, she's still young. And she wants to be able to have some time and go out with her girlfriends and be able to just have some respite. And grandparents are saying, you're a bad mother. If you do this, and she's saying to me, Nadia, how do I take care of myself in order to take care of my child better, right? Without somebody constantly saying you are a bad parent if you're not with your child 24/7.
Not acceptable.
Yeah,
straight on, not acceptable.
Yeah,
because as you said, you got to take care of yourself in order to take care of your child.
Yes,
and you also have a life. I know that once your children come, your life is centered around your children. I know they take over, but you need to take care of yourself. And we need to understand and accept that. And, that's where the support structures come in as well.
But Faizal, having said that, parents were two people in a marriage first before they had parents. So before they had children.
Sure.
And it's like this whole thing of communicating with each other. So they hyper focused on the child, and we've forgotten to communicate with each other. So there's literally, that's what we see, is this total disconnect from each other, which actually has a massive impact on that child.
And the social support, Nadia, what I've noticed, in this current stage is it's lacking, especially with family members. once the child gets a diagnosis, the family members, I'm talking about extended family now, they're not accepting that child. So they're not allowed to attend functions because that child is going to be having a meltdown at the function. So they will tell me that they keep that child at home. Some of my parents come from other places in Durban, so they go to a Shaka marine world. But they say they're not allowed to take that child to a family function because of the shame associated with it. So this is where family members needs to come in now, and they need to accept this because the parents didn't cause this.
Yeah. Or they get told that they're bad parents because your child is throwing a tantrum, right?
But I heard you say they're ashamed to take the children.
Yes.
But why should you be? We accept when you've got a cardiac condition, if you've got another condition, any physical condition we accept. When we've got a sort of a mental condition, then we want to stigmatize the entire thing. We want to be ashamed. Why?
But Faizal, this is the huge thing about conditions like autism spectrum or ADHD, is that our children, to all intents and purposes, or our people on the spectrum, look normal. When you're in a wheelchair, I can see you have a disability.
Yes.
If you're blind and you have a cane, I can see you're wearing hearing aids, right? So it's something that tells me that there is some difficulty.
Yes.
Whereas with autism, people think, why are you behaving so strangely? Right? What is it? It's huge. I mean, I used to see when I lived in Abu Dhabi, and he was this beautiful, angelic little boy with blue eyes and light brown hair. But I could hear him when he entered the parking lot because he would be in high distress, right? And that scream you can hear. And people turn around and look at this mother like, you can't control your child. Why is your child behaving so badly? Not realizing that there are conditions that you cannot see. So I think what we've got to do as families and community is start being kinder.
Absolutely. We got to be kinder. We got to we got to assist them. We got to encourage them. And I mean, if you can do that, because I've seen children with autism, I mean, they are functioning almost as normal, if not better. It's just that their parents have had this positive attitude. I don't know if you guys have taken care of them, because every parent takes care of a child, but they've taken that extra care, that positive outlook. They've encouraged the child, and today we have a child who can virtually take care of himself or herself. Right now, we need to take care of the marketplace. So let's take a little break and continue on the other side of this.
Your perfect companion, Radio Al Ansar.
There's nothing quite like the taste of a traditional family meal, and at the heart of every great dish is a key ingredient that brings it all together. That ingredient is Sunfoil Pure Sunflower Cooking Oil, made from only the finest sunflower seeds. It's a perfect way to enhance the taste of your family's favorite foods. Sunfoil cooking oil is more than just oil. It's the key to bring your family together over a delicious meal and making every bite taste better. Remember, the key ingredient to a great family meal is sunfoil. Tradition just tastes better.
وَأَطْعِمُوا الطَّعَامِ, which means, if you literally translate it, it translates to feed food. So again, it has a broader meaning of just sharing food and a specific meaning of specifically feeding those who are hungry. So feed those who are hungry. There should never be anyone who's left hungry. That should never happen. That is your mandate. That is your responsibility.
Join me, Nishal Sarwan, and the Breakfast Rush team this Ramadan as we gear up to distribute 1,000 degs of hot meals this Ramadan and Eid, because no one should go hungry. Sponsor a deg for just 1,850 Rand, Lillah only. Call Outreach now on 031 208 1601.
Ladies, are you or a loved one diagnosed with cancer, or are you on treatment, or are you a cancer survivor? Then the Al Ansar Cancer Support Group is for you. Join us once a month and be a part of a supportive group of ladies to simply chat, discuss challenges, and be motivated by our guest speakers. Contact Rubina Parak on 082-786-8815 or Zora Jadwat on 082-220-3131 for more information. No one should face cancer alone.
Radio Al Ansar, 24/7, 365.
موطني الجمال والجلال والسناء والبهاء في رباك والحياة والنجاة.
Let's chat on Radio Lansar with myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. Our topic for discussion is fighting mental stress, family dynamics, and disability. Our special guest, Dr. Mark Mudley, a specialist pediatrician, and Nadia Bayat, a neuro rehab specialist. And our topic, as I say, our topic for discussion is fighting mental stress, family dynamics, and disability. This is an interactive program. If you have any questions, suggestions, comments, 060-904-1056. That's your WhatsApp number. Now, how does the experience of stigma and discrimination affect the mental health of parents and their children? You guys
culturally, you hear different things, Faisal. And we see this within our African culture. It's about appeasing ancestors. So a lot of parents will say to you, because they've gone to a traditional healer, and the traditional healer will say, oh, it's because you didn't do this ceremony or you didn't do that, and therefore one of the ancestors is upset with you, right? But I always say to parents, you can't do one thing in isolation, right? If you're going to do things, you have to almost attack something on a multi-pronged approach. So yes, we hear that. I've done community outreach, and children are locked away in houses, especially children who, the likelihood of children with autism or attention deficit and being epileptic, sort of dual diagnosis is high, Mark, right?
Yeah. I think when it comes to the cultural aspects, as healthcare professionals, we need to be very sensitive to what we hear from parents. Never be judgmental when they give you this cultural reason as to why this is happening. It's a very sensitive issue, and it's ethical to be non-judgmental when they discuss something with you, and it's important to listen to parents when they talk. Listening is so important, and communicating.
Spirituality can play a huge role here, because from an Islamic perspective, these parents that undergo these type of challenges, they are rewarded. For every bit of calamity that you sort of experience here, you are rewarded for it, rewarded abundantly. So, there's always some light at the end of the tunnel. And Nadia is not an oncoming train, I promise you that. Then there's always some light. And yes, in fact, there's various hadiths to that effect as well. But of course, I'm not going to be reading those out. But the bottom line is that there is a reward. You will not experience any calamity without there being a reward for it. So
it's to persevere.
Absolutely.
Patience and perseverance.
Now, how does the intersection of disability with other marginalized identities, example, race, ethnicity, socio-economic status, sexual orientation, etc., compound the challenges faced by parents?
Hectic.
Hectic. Yeah.
It is hectic. I think as health professionals, and I for one can say that, dealing with young adults and, sort of these teenagers who are now going in and hormones are like all over the place. Funny story. Do we have time for funny stories?
We've got like about 22 minutes to round up the show.
Quick story. So I was showing some funders around the other day, and I took them into the, young adult center. And so one of them says to me, "Who's your boyfriend or your husband?" It's like, where did that come from?
Absolutely.
But the thing is that this can be exceptionally hectic for parents. It's not a comfortable space for us as health professionals, but I think this is where we get to up our game and also invite other professionals who know more than we do.
Yeah. Now, let's see, you put race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and sexual orientation. Obviously, it's going to be different for the different parameters.
Yes.
Especially the socioeconomic status as well. That's where we're going to get a lot of poverty, a lack of awareness, lack of knowledge. And obviously, that's going to impact, the challenges experienced by parents, because I think in a high socioeconomic status, there's more knowledge, more education about it. So the understanding might be better.
But sometimes with that comes huge denial.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, and to what extent do societal expectations and pressures on parents contribute to the mental health struggles of parents raising children with disabilities?
Societal expectations could expect a child that's normal, if I had to say normal. I don't think disability should be labeled as something that's abnormal, because it's a part of life, and this is not something that we caused. Pressures on parents, that's huge. That's quite huge. I think it all stems down to the stigma attached to a disability and accepting the disability. And the basis of this is lack of knowledge regarding the condition. That's where we struggle.
I think, Faizal, we're a society that likes to label something, and labels are safe. If I have a label for something, then I almost know what that is, and I can sort of understand where that is. But it's almost when we label things, it's that whole thing of shaming and naming. And it doesn't mean because one person is labeled or autistic and another person that they share or they have the same characteristics. Everyone is unique in the way in which they present. So for me, as an advocate in disability, I say, get rid of labels, disable labels, because they do not help us at all.
Yeah. And how do we disable labels? I mean, that's quite difficult. It's having shows like these, because we are educating the community. And a lot of people now are listening and they'll be like, oh, okay, I didn't know it was that difficult for that parent.
Yeah.
So these shows are impacting parents and the community. Yeah.
Disable labels. I like that one.
Disable labels.
Disable labels, yes. Now, what are the effects of sleep deprivation and chronic fatigue on mental health of parents who are primary caregivers? I think this is an important question.
Yeah.
It's important for all of us. Some of us who seem to go and don't know when to rest. Wink, 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 Faizal, who do not know how to rest.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Mark?
Sleep deprivation. When I used to work as a registrar, we used to do 48 to 72 hour shifts sometimes. I worked in Bloom. Like, you'll start on the Monday, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're going home on the Tuesday, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I know what it feels like to be sleep deprived, and it actually took a number of years for my circadian rhythm to actually normalize, Nadia, from internship. And the impact of sleep deprivation is you are going to be irritable, angry, you're going to lash out, and chronic fatigue as well. And if you're depressed and you're anxious, it is going to make it worse, and you're not going to give that a child the attention he or she needs.
Yeah. So we find sometimes that either parents self-medicate, so they're taking their children's medications to cope.
Whoa.
Okay, yes, like Ritalin. Yeah. and or they are trying to medicate their children to go to sleep so they can
sleep.
have some sleep.
Wow.
And it's not because they're a bad parent.
No. It's circumstances, necessity. I
Yeah.
want to sleep.
But so how do we need to be more sensitive to parents who are in this situation, and rather than wagging our finger and saying you're a bad parent, it's about how can I help the situation.
Absolutely. And how does constant need for advocacy on behalf of the child impact parental stress levels and mental well-being?
Well, Nadia, you're the advocate for autism.
I'm the advocate for all disability.
For all disabilities.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm the activator and the accelerator on thought.
Yeah.
But here's the thing for me. It's about recognizing that that parents are struggling. What I've been very keen to do, and I've discussed this with Mark, is that we need support for our parents. We need to establish some sort of parent support groups. Faizal, you can look high and low. Our support structures are minimal.
Yes.
In our communities. And we need a space, a safe space for parents to come that they can talk about. When parents share with each other, they learn.
Yes.
They sort of feel like I'm not alone anymore, right?
And they cope better as well.
And they cope better. But there's none, it doesn't exist. So Mark and I have been talking about this, and I'm very keen to start some support groups like this, parent support groups, but also for siblings, because I think that's the other sort of, if we think of the ripple effect, that's another, sort of group of people being impacted by disability.
Yeah, and as pediatricians, not only do we diagnose and treat disorders and diseases in children, we are also the child's advocate. Sometimes parents are not the advocate. They won't play the role of advocate, but as a pediatrician, you should be the child's advocate as well.
Yep. Okay, actually time's running out. We've got still lots and lots to discuss. In fact, we're just on her master's. We haven't come to the PhD.
Yes. You need to pass his exam.
But let's look at the impact on family dynamics and relationships. How does the mental health of parents affect their relationships with their children with disabilities, their partners, and their other children?
So what I see is that, often you will find that the children don't think they're loved, right? Because they don't get told that often enough.
Yes.
Right. So your parent is so busy scheduling all your therapies, driving you to this, doing that, making sure all of these things, that they become almost your PA. And they're sort of busy with that, and your teacher and your therapist, that you do not feel loved as the child.
Okay.
Right. But also, like we said, this relationship between parents becomes so hyper-focused on the child that they forget that they need to nurture their relationship with each other, right? And usually siblings, huge guilt. They feel they are neglected because the focus is on this child with disability, and they feel secondary. But they also, it's like a vicious circle. I feel bad because I'm neglected, but I shouldn't feel bad because my brother or sister needs my parents' attention more. And this is where you see self-harm behavior happen. So these siblings start to do things that lead to self-harm. Mark?
Yeah, it's amazing. Sometimes the parents will bring the child with the disability and the sibling as well. And it's so nice to see the interaction sometimes with the sibling with that child. They're so loving and caring towards that child. Yeah. So I think it varies. The dynamics varies.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Let's look at the impact on spousal relations, impact on the siblings of the child. Let's look at the impact of that, or as far as this is concerned.
Yeah. So often you find that, mom or dad actually sleeps with this child because this child takes a long time to settle at night, right? So literally, parents have now. So they either do it on a rotational basis, or if dad's got to get up and go to work, then it's mum who's there. And literally they've moved into their child's room.
Yes.
So that whole partnership that you should have with your spouse is now no longer.
It's disrupted, yes.
Right? Your spouse is not, it's not like, how are you? How was your day? Because you walk in the door, or you're both walking in the door, and their focus has to be
the child.
On this child. So where's the time? Where is the space for you to check in with each other? And I think that is huge, right? It all becomes that child rather than here's us as a team, right? So, and parents feel very isolated. So mothers feel like they're doing it all, or fathers feel like, hey, I'm bearing the financial burden, and they get resentful. They resent each other. If a mum has now had to give up work to stay home with this child and do all these things and help with the therapies and sort of ferry a child to all of these things, mums feel resentful, but then they feel bad for being resentful.
Yeah, and I think the support groups, this is where the support groups are important. Like, if we could arrange to get these parents all together, like maybe once a week, where they can all speak to each other and see that they're not the only ones that's going through this, there's other people that's going through it. It will make them feel better knowing that they're not the only ones in this challenge.
Let's look at coping strategies. What are some effective coping strategies that parents can use to manage stress and promote their mental well-being?
Well, first one is let's start communicating. Let's talk with each other. A, right? B, it's also taking time for yourself, getting some exercise, having a night off, right? Having wonderful grandparents that you can say, here, please, for the weekend, right? Or that extended family or friends that can step in for you. So it's that level. And then, of course, support groups, Faizal, which we really, really need to do.
Yeah, support groups are vital. In fact, absolutely vital, because they will help you cope. And how can healthcare professionals and other service providers better support the mental health of parents?
Yeah, I think when you identify that there might be underlying mental health conditions in the parents, to do the necessary referrals to psychology, psychiatry, and ask the parents on their mental health, where it's sitting at the moment, and then you can do the referrals. If you don't ask them, they might not tell you, or they might be scared to tell you,
But also, I believe, Mark, if you are the center point, if you are the person who's seeing this family, right, you may make the referral to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but it's also you are the one who's pivotal to bringing it all together. I do not believe we as health professionals sit down and look at a holistic plan for this child and this family. We do not. We work in sort of little silos and nothing connects. And that has to stop.
Okay, we've got like about 7 minutes to round up the show. So I'm just going to go through some of your questions very quickly. Let's talk about technology. What role can technology play in improving access to mental health and resources for parents?
We're talking about our AI.
Well, I
I don't
think
know if you're speaking of shit.
I think, you know, when we're lacking the physical support groups, you can find a community online. You do, because the world is then open. You know, we've got this connectivity where you can connect to different groups of people across the world, and at least you have that. So technology is huge. You can listen to, I love TED Talks almost. You can get a little 15-minute or a 10-minute talk, and it can be on expanding your knowledge base of what this disability is and how you move forward.
Yeah, even like your WhatsApp groups. I mean, that's readily available to you,
right?
Where you can vent to each other and on a WhatsApp chat. I mean, that can work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and how can we promote self-compassion and reduce self-blame among parents who are struggling with their mental health?
I think this is where empathy is important.
Huge.
Putting yourself in the shoes of the parents. You may not have a child that's autistic, but if you put yourself in the shoes of the parents, it will make them feel better. Listening to parents when they talk to you, communicating, effective communication, having compassion. And what I noticed, positive affirmations as well. Like I once told his mom, "You can do it," at the end of my consult. And she actually sent me a review and told me, "Doctor, thank you for telling me that, because that made my day." Being positive about it, Nadia. The topic of our show was, are we battling mental stress or are we making memories? Like Faizal said, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and these children will get rewards for it. Focusing on the positivity and positive aspects of it, and not the negatives.
It's like the parents will be rewarded as well for the sacrifices that they make. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think what we've got to help parents remember is that your child is growing and your child changes. And everybody, you know, it's almost like I keep saying there's no magic pill, but the magic happens. And the magic happens in the instances and moments of living. But if you're so focused on the next, the future, you're forgetting to actually focus on the present when these amazing things happen with your child. So there is magic. And that's where the memories are, in actually being present in the here and the now.
Here and now. I've read that somewhere before. And also, one thing you shouldn't do is compare what you're going through to somebody else, because they could be facing a battle that you don't know about. We all have challenges. Life is difficult. Let's just be positive.
And let's be kind.
And be kind and compassionate.
You know, Faizal, I've started hugging. Moms come in to see me about something, and I compliment them about, "Oh, that's a pretty dress," or "Wow, you're looking so good." And they look at you like, "Really? I haven't slept in a couple of days. My hair looks terrible." And I say, you know, it's just a little thing. And when you hug someone, you know, as health professionals, it's almost like we maintain distance, because we think that's about objectivity. But if we lead with that compassion, that kindness, it makes a world of difference.
Absolutely. Nadia and Mark Murray, thank you very much for joining me in the program this evening. I see you guys have been having fun this evening, but then what happens when you're having fun? Time flies. So in a minute each, I'd like your messages to our listeners, please.
Nadia, you start.
Ladies first. So it's a difficult task. Ladies first.
So beneath every behavior is a feeling, and beneath each feeling is a need. When we meet the need rather than focus on the behavior, we begin to focus on the cause and not the symptom.
Excellent. And Mark?
Okay, Nadia, you've set the standard there. I would like to conclude with the actual topic of our show, which is making memories or mental stress. I think let's go with making memories. That's more positive. The stress is going to be there. That's not, I mean, that's unavoidable, but let's make memories of what we have and be positive. Yeah.
That's where the magic is.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Mark Woodley and Nadia Bayat, for joining me in the program this evening. And just to remind our parents that there's always benefits in every calamity. Remember, the emotional and psychological benefits of bringing up a child with a challenge or disability is that it can foster empathy, compassion, and understanding. It can also bring family members together, closer together, and can lead to increased patience, resilience, and self-awareness. So remember, there's always benefits in all rewards for all of this. I must thank Hajra Kota for having produced tonight's show. I must thank Asif for having engineered for me this evening. Thank you, Asif, and thank you for the few nasheeds you played. It was excellent. The next program you're going to be listening to is Ikra Wafam with Brother A.K. Muhammad. And tonight, his special guest is Sheikh Sadullah Khan, and they will be discussing about tafsir of the Holy Quran, inshallah ta'ala. Time for me to bid you farewell. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and I'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock on Rise and Shine. So till then, from myself, Faizal MJ Suleman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أحب الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي الأمين الأمر فأهل الوفاء كلا